Click the arrow. Cool. All right, y'all, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Thanks for coming. Very exciting for us. We are the co-constructing Crossroads, 5 years of TA reflections from an introductory agroecology course. Our third actually dropped out, so we're more at like 3.5 to 4 years of reflections, but I think we'll get a lot of it stuff.
We'll get many more years of reflections also.
Indeed. My name is Kase Wheatley. I just finished my master's at University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I'll be starting a PhD at UC Davis in the fall. Okay.
I'm Ben, he, him pronouns. I'm also I'm a PhD student at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I've been for 4 years now. And Kase and I have taught this class called Introduction to the Agroecology. It's Agroecology, Introduction to the Ecology of Food and Agriculture. I really love this class. I've been super involved in it over the past 3 years. I'm going to be teaching it again in the fall. And I thought this conference would be an awesome opportunity to talk to other folks across the country about what their introductory sustainable ag and agroecology curriculum is like, share some of our what we see as successes and also challenges, and hopefully compile a guide of tips and best practices and share ideas and skills for improving and strengthening this really critical part of sustainable agriculture education, in particular focusing on students that are just getting into it in the introductory classes. But how do we get them excited? How do we get them engaged? So yeah,
absolutely. Cool. So moving forward. There it is. So yes, briefly, this is what we'll be doing today. We'll do introductions, go through what agroecology the classes at UW-Madison. We'll have some small group discussion. We'll do some report backs, and then we'll wrap up. And we should have some notes of our discussion that we can share with everyone here. So briefly, we would like to know, who are you, where you're coming from, maybe why you're here, what's your interest or connection to this topic. So maybe we could just go around 30 seconds to a minute, elaborate as much as you want. Maybe you can start.
Hi, everybody. My name is John Mishler. I'm from Goshen College, Mary Lee Environmental Learning Center, Farm. There's a whole thing done back there, but a lot of other organizations. So I teach a dedicated semester to agroecology. You know, we're practicing it all the time amongst our mixed wild and farm landscapes. Yeah, excited to hear other people's perspectives on it.
I'm Chris Murakami. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm a faculty member in the food studies program at Chatham University outside of Pittsburgh, and I teach basic agroecology and growing sustainably lab for undergrad and grad students.
I'm at Penn State University, and I don't have any formal teaching equipment, but I do teach a course for training interns that we work on the farm. So I'm interested in, I'm trying to come into the agroecology through that course before they're on the farm. And then I'm having to do some minor things that I'm practicing teacher, but I do some support.
Right, Joseph. I teach at the Sustainable Agriculture Program at Rain County Community College up north of here. As of this past year, we have a piece of a new course that we at Overland College instructor called Agroecological Transition. This is entry-level course, basically an agroecology intro course with a particular focus on transition.
Jack McCoy, he, him pronouns. I'm a PhD candidate in the horticulture and crop science department at Ohio State. I'm TA'd often over the last few years, and I'm always looking to learn more from fellow TAs. In our lab, we are evolutionary agroecologists, so exploring genetics and agricultural settings.
Hey y'all, my name is I'm from Iuliano University in Central North Carolina. I instruct in environmental studies and agriculture at the student farm where we teach a agriculture class. So
name is David Aguilar. And I work for the University of Puerto Rico at Iuliano County. We have 11 centers with the part of the agriculture. Well, I'm sorry that I don't have my program here, but the topic I couldn't get it.
Intro to agroecology courses, sharing about it.
Oh yeah, so I'm in education, so I wanna also I do the school garden project, so
Cool.
that's the point.
Thank you.
My name is Mary Garcio. I'm a senior undergrad at Delaware Valley University studying sustainable agriculture. My interest in this topic is more based on like the introductory portion of this class in general, because I've been a part of like teaching intro to animal science and then a tutor and then advisor. My name is also Maddie, and I'm also from Delaware Valley University. I'm a biology major. I'm going to be a senior, and agroecology is something that's new to me. So it's really interesting, you know, interested in the introduction part of it. So I'm into like that. I'm a senior undergraduate student at American University. I have a lot. I do research in urban farms and the impact on neighborhoods and communities. And something like how they work to be kind of like helping like food problems and stuff. So I'm really interested in learning about that and kind of intersections of like soil, research,
Hi everyone, I'm David. I'm also from OSU. I'm a Master of Applied Economics with specializations in urban agriculture. So my interest in the topic is I look along at valuation and evaluation of urban farming. Agroecology is a term that I'm relatively new to, so I also wanted to see beginnings of teaching practices and stuff like that.
Cool. I forgot your name, but could you introduce yourself as well? Oh no, I met him, but you as well.
Me? Oh,
yeah, I forgot your name. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Dave Hillapart from teach environmental studies at Agroecology. Campus partner. I teach classes on food and sustainability. So I guess my introduction with agroecology is not from the technical side, but from the more social sciences side.
Cool. Great. Moving forward. Oh, yes, please.
Well, I am.
I love that we have undergrads here. We want to hear from you about what works and what doesn't in your topic.
I'm Austin Erdman. I work with Dr. Wool here at Central State University on integration of robotics and sustainable agriculture.
Cool. So UW-Madison, if y'all haven't visited before, come say hello. I'll be there a little while longer, then I'll be there.
Beautiful place.
That's us. We're on an isthmus in between two beautiful lakes. So that is where we are. So briefly, we're going to go through a timeline of what happened in 2003. There was a cluster hire of 3 different faculty around the theme of agroecology. That term was not super well defined, but you know, we got people who were vaguely interested in agriculture, ecology, and all those things. 2004 to 2015, and to today, there was an agroecology program developed first by a soil scientist and a sociologist. And then kind of, you know, they brought their own ideas. At the time, agroecology for them was not about any particular politics, but more just interdisciplinary, action-oriented research. 2016 was the first time that Agroecology 103 was taught. Was taught as a team course at that time with the 3 different faculty who we'll introduce along the way.
This was the first time undergrads were really brought into under this term agroecology at UW.
Yeah, and as you can see, it's 15 students at that time, which was about where we are right here. Yes, please. Absolutely. I will project. So 2017 to 2019, the course was growing. We had 150 students. That was run all in person and kind of the first iteration of the big class. 2020, as you all know, we had a pandemic that happened and shut everything down. Everything went online. And that is when everything started to transition to online. We made more content for the course and dramatically kind of overhauled everything. This past year, we were back in person and we kind of maintained parts of the old, parts of the online content was also kind of coming in person. And so some of that changes. What we did is what we'll be sharing with you today. So there's Claudio. He's the entomologist. This is our classroom. We just wanted it, to bring you all into the classroom as well, rather than being solely here. So course composition. In general, we have
From this past year.
yes. You can see we have students from across the board. It's pretty evenly split. Maybe less fourth years. Hopefully they've taken the class by then. It is a required course, at least for the food system certificate and what is going to become a new organic agriculture certificate. There's some redesign happening in the College of Agriculture generally because of low enrollment. And so there's going to be a new kind of united multidisciplinary project. And this course will be kind of one of the core courses for that. So soil science, plant pathology, horticulture, economy, entomology. Thank you. I always forget those people. So this is us. This is who takes this course. Funnily enough, computer science is the biggest of the words. We get a lot of computer science students because our class fulfills a general education sustainability requirement. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. On the last slide, could you explain that transfer student situation? So like
it says I transfer into UW this year as a junior. That might be one person.
Yeah, I think those are.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was the red. I thought that was the second.
Yeah.
So I was like, well,
Yeah.
I need to know.
Yeah, that's more of a pink over here, but we can work on the colors for next time.
Yeah, I just pulled that from our Google survey.
Yeah. But we really get students from across the college, which means, some are really engaged and some are literally there just for the, yeah. So
they tell us as much.
yeah, we say like, hey, why are you here? And they're like, oh, I need the requirements. And I'm like, we're going to make the best of it. All right, course scope. So here are our three main instructors, our faculty instructors. We have three of them. Claudio Bertan, he's an insect ecologist. He's up top. Ben works with him. From the Department of Entomology, grassland ecologist, Randy Jackson. It's an agronomy. He's the big dude right here. And then environmental sociologist, Mike Bell. That is who I worked with my master's, and he's from community and environmental sociology. So we get these.
I just want to know, these are the three people that were part of the original cluster hire in 2003 for agroecology, and they, after a while, got together and were like, we want to develop this interdisciplinary introductory course together for undergraduates.
Absolutely. Clearly coming from very different backgrounds. And so part of what this course is trying to synthesize those different perspectives, pushing for interdisciplinarity, but as we'll see, sometimes that's really hard. So broadly, kind of the goals of the course, talking about agroecosystems, multifunctionality, and equity. Those are kind of the big kind of three stakes of agroecology that we in the course are working with, striving for interdisciplinarity, striving for transdisciplinarity. As I said, we don't always make it there. That is a goal of ours. So broadly, let me see if I can move this guy.
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna give like a quick overview of basically how we structured our course. And this is a new structure that came about in that pandemic year. Previously, the way the course sort of operated was each of those three professors would just be like, this is a topic that I want to make sure gets included. And they'd talk for a week, and then a different professor would talk the next week. And we found through surveys of students and just our own observations that created a lot of whiplash, intellectual whiplash, you could say, for the students. And also they struggled sometimes to connect these like science practice movement, social, ecological, natural science all together under this banner of agroecology. So we had a lot of brainstorming sessions in the summer of 2020, knowing we were going into this online semester, and really used it as an opportunity to completely overhaul the structure and content. And so we had I think this originally came from the professors. Their idea was to organize the course around these 5 big questions in food and agriculture, and then take multidisciplinary perspectives on each of those questions over the course of 2 or 3 weeks in these different modules. So the first one we are just calling what is agroecology, and that's because it's a word in the course title that is unfamiliar to most people. So sort of defining some of the intellectual history of that discipline, what we mean by it, and also just like some very basics of like plant growth and like what do plants need to grow, because a lot of these students, as Kate pointed out, don't have an agricultural or environmental science background.
But also, I'll say just expanding beyond, here are the biophysical parts, so there's also types of.
Yeah, definitely. The next unit, and the other thing I want to mention about this question is that they're all so intentionally misleading or intentionally like asking questions that probably don't have simple yes or no answers, right? So a big point of our goals in the course, and we'll talk about this, and potentially also as one of the places we struggle, is we really want to get students to think contextually and with complexity and uncertainty. And so our hope is that they'll realize that these questions are not as simple as they first appear as we go through the course. So the first sort of topical question is, should I buy organic food? We do, can we feed the world by 2050 without destroying the planet? Should I eat meat? And then should I be a farmer? And then there's like, this is a screenshot from our course website, which I'll walk through in a sec, that has some more sort of specific weekly topics within each of those broad questions. The course structure is also a little interesting. So when we went to online, we did a flipped classroom sort of model. So this isn't a graphic that we provide to the students because it's a little unfamiliar to a lot of them. The way it works, once one of those question modules starts, they will have what we call pre-lecture content, which is a series of short videos, readings, podcasts, etc., that they will watch on their own time asynchronously in place of like a normal lecture period. For each of those lesson plans that they go through on their own, there's like a graded on completion quiz that they take, just as we call it their comprehension check. And then there's this Thursday, what's scheduled as a lecture period.
By the way, for the comprehension check, that's also a place where students can ask questions.
Yeah.
Where things don't make sense.
Yeah, the last question is always, what are you confused about? Or like, what do you want us to talk more about in the live Thursday session? Yeah, that's an important point. And then on Thursdays, we do the lecture, which our aspiration is always for that to be more of like a synthetic sort of activities and Q&A sessions, panels, things like that. We don't always reach that, but that's the hope. And then there are also discussion sections which are led by TAs, and those involve a variety of activities, like visiting a garden on campus or listening to a podcast and pausing to do discussion questions. We've done like debates about topics and things like that. And so they cycle through this, and then they have a quiz at the end of each of these modules. And yeah, I want to talk a little bit more in detail about each of these 3 components. Yeah, so the first one is this pre-lecture content. So this is from videos that the professors have basically recorded. And their thinking was that we're teaching this in Wisconsin in the fall to winter, which is not ideal place or time for actually getting out into the field and seeing things grow. So they took advantage of having the summer before we were going online to film a bunch of videos like out at the ag research station in the field to bring that real world tangible experience to students when we couldn't do that during COVID, and also not during COVID when there's just like not that much growing in Wisconsin. We have this live lecture, which I just mentioned. This is another photo from that. And in this, we'll also do, we try to incorporate a lot of like polling activities. So this is like a screenshot from this Poll Everywhere software that we use. We do things to ask them about, this is I think from the organic unit, and it's comparing like different types of milk and like getting at why people may choose to buy particular things from the store for particular reasons, labeling or otherwise.
I'll just mention the agronomist Randy Jackson, who's the larger one, the fair man. He is very, his research orientation has been around grass milk and grass-fed beef for a long time. So he often throws in some like grass-fed things. So this week was extra surprising and saddening to see that grass-fed milk was one of the lower options for him.
We also have activities like this poll software lets you, so you can put up an image and students can like tap. So we'll do things like throw up some photos of different farming systems and be like, how would you classify this on this triad of industrial, agrarian, ecological, whatever. So we try to figure out ways to do more than just lecturing as much as we can, I guess.
And this is poll everywhere?
Yeah, that's the stuff, yeah.
And so students can actually place themselves along that, and we have some interaction too.
And then we have, like I said, we have discussion sections, which involve lots of activities. I don't know if you want to say anything more about.
I'll just say some, I mean, you know, especially having the math in the classroom, we look for as many opportunities to go outside as possible. This was one space that sometimes was accessible, but also in the fall and winter, there's still a short window where we can do anything outside before it's freezing and or raining. So this is one of the ecological gardens on campus in which we would bring our students to.
Quickly, just the assignments we have in this class, we didn't really want it to be like exam based, so it's pre-project based, which makes sometimes the grading load can be kind of heavy for us as TAs. But they have these weekly automatically graded quizzes, which I touched on. Those are just pass-fail opportunity to ask questions. The next set are these 3 central projects, and the goal of these is to build, like, show people what agroecological research is from a variety of perspectives. So they have one project that deals with doing quantitative research, where we involve this Wisconsin Wild Bee app that my lab has developed for them to actually go out to the field, do pollinator surveys. They can look at this crowdsourced data website, excuse me, and pull graphs to answer a hypothesis that they have come up with on their own. They write like a 2-page, very condensed sort of report in the structure of a scientific research article. And we also scaffold that with like teaching them how to read the scientific article. A lot of students haven't done that before. There's also this qualitative research project, which thus far has been pretty open-ended, but it's just asking them to interview a food systems worker and practice doing interview-based qualitative research.
So for some people that was a chef, other people a grocery store worker, farmer, just anyone across the food chain, across the food system is fair game.
Yeah. And then also writing a 2-page report in the structure of a like sociological research article, basically. And then they have a semester-long, what we call a civic engagement project, which the idea is to get them out of the classroom and out of the books and into the community to be doing something. So I think we've struggled with this assignment a little bit in really achieving that goal. Because we give them like a list of ideas, and some of them are just like, go to a farmer's market and like buy ingredients and make a meal and then reflect on it.
And for some people that's radical, they've never done that before, but for others it's like you do that every weekend. So how much actual learning and experience from that?
Yeah. And then they do have a final exam. We haven't been able to escape that yet, but would love other ideas about other types of assessments. This is a screenshot from our course management site. Also pulled it up in another tab. So yeah, just to show you sort of what this looks like in practice. So these are all the modules where we can just pick a week on, so like this week 8 is on agriculture and global change. And you can see we list the like key concepts, and then there's this sort of narrative that we've constructed that threads together these different videos and articles and things. So this is one like about diversity in agroecosystems. My advisor Claudio is a landscape ecologist, so he produced this video where he's like driving around, looking at different types of landscapes in Wisconsin. This is talking about landscape composition and configuration, giving them the context that they need to read an article, for example, a scientific research article. Let me pull that up. And then trying to get them to connect that with some of the like economic and sociological and political concepts. So this is Mike, I think in this video, he's talking about property rights and how that affects what happens out on the landscape. Also more data-driven sort of graph stuff. I think now we're talking about climate change. And And then it ends here with a video from Mike about climate change and inequality. So we're really trying to like bring multiple disciplines to bear on these thematic topics and hoping that students can see the intimate connections between like the hardcore ecological science and the social and political context in which that is happening.
And you see that within the videos themselves.
Yeah.
The different professors and their particular flavors.
Yeah.
So that shows up. Sometimes it's appreciated, sometimes, you know, the more curated on scripted, and sometimes people just want to craft.
Yeah.
We try to cater to everyone. So it's always works.
Yeah. And then this is just an example of what one of those comprehension check quizzes looks like after they've gone through that lesson plan on their own time. And the quizzes are, so these are not graded, they're just graded on completion. And it's like after each week and then after each module, like each multi-week
Every
lesson,
2 to 3 weeks. So like
there's a graded quiz. And oftentimes that is actually based, we give them like a news article, like a popular news article that is related to something we've been talking about, and then try to get them to connect course concepts to things that are actually in the news and like happening in the world outside of the classroom. Yeah. You want to talk about it?
No, I think you should. I love it. Ben introduced me to it.
This is an artist, he's a Spanish artist named Iuliano, and his art is just really, it's like surrealist agricultural landscape. So there's a little credit down there, but I basically, they were like, feel free to design the Canvas website. And I was like, this is going to be our branding for this class because I just think it's nice.
I'd say in general, agroecology, you know, trying to be interdisciplinary, it gets better at biophysical and social humanities are like almost left out. And how do we do that? That's trying to show some art, but
yeah,
you know, it's definitely a weak point in what
we're doing. We're getting a little short on time, so I'm going to quickly run through these. So we've just like pulled out what we've seen as some successes in our experience teaching the class, and then also some areas where we'd like to continue to grow and see improvement. So first, we think we've been somewhat successful in promoting interdisciplinarity in a very traditional College of Agriculture with like soil science, horticulture, agronomy, entomology, all as separate disciplines with their own rural sociology. Totally, which is like, yeah, with the one non-biophysical discipline, and sort of bringing that to bear on the others as well. We really try to emphasize students' experience as sources of knowledge, especially we have a lot of students that are coming from like conventional farming backgrounds in Wisconsin, but then people that have like never held soil in their hands in their life.
yeah. And so especially in the discussion section, bringing that experience and knowledge there, that becomes deeply rewarding for everyone. So students like, I come from a farm, it's normal, or bachelor's or whatever. It's actually do you mind talking a little bit about the logistics of the discussion?
Yeah.
Like pre-work that you can do and then yeah, I mean, it varies week to week and depends on, you know, we mentioned those 3 big projects, the quantitative, qualitative, and the community project. You know, sometimes when we're approaching those topics or when we're introducing those projects, we're actually going to talk about a lot of that in the section. Sometimes if we're noticing there's a lot of issues going on, we might work through part of that as a group. You know, for some of the quizzes, for some of the field trips. I guess what I'm trying to say is everyone is pretty different.
Yeah. We try to keep it different intentionally because it's interesting, I think, is at least the way I see it.
Yeah,
I think maybe sometimes students would prefer more consistency, but
yeah.
Are they like in-person discussions or online discussions?
It's all in person. It was 2020. It was
on Zoom.
Yeah.
So synchronous. Yeah.
But have you ever used anything like Halfback? Have you ever heard of that?
Canvas has that as an option.
Yeah.
And we have some like optional, like we have posting boards where people can, but it's never been like required, but like you have to post. But yeah.
Yeah. In terms of qualitative and quantitative research, 2 questions. Like, what's the process for how students would select your topics to research, and do you provide opportunities for a presentation to the cohort?
Good question. So for the quantitative assignment, we basically give them the parameters of this database of citizen science collected pollinator data, where people are collecting information about a variety of environmental variables, like what type of crop or habitat were you in, was it, if it was managed organically or not. And given those variables, they can choose their specific hypothesis, click the buttons on the website to produce the graphs that address that hypothesis, and then write about it. So there's some choice, but it's limited within that context. The qualitative assignment is like very broad, and it's like we want you to interview a food systems worker. Your research question can be whatever you find interesting about that.
So part of that discussion specifically, for that we did practice interviewing. Yeah, talk about best practices and what makes a good interview, and talk about what makes a bad interview, and together, two people interviewing one another,
and then in terms of presentations, we don't have any formal presentations. So these tend to be 20 to 30 people discussing sections. It's hard to get through a lot unless you're doing group projects. And in the past version of the class, we had a different project. We had one like group project that they would do. We abandoned that during COVID and then didn't really bring it back. But that is a place, especially in the skill building sort of professional development areas, where I think it would be cool to have that sort of opportunity. But yeah, good question.
And on the qualitative and quantitative research, what kind of, are they writing a really formal report, like a paper, or are they just writing a couple paragraphs?
We guide them. So both of those assignments are like multi-step. So they'll submit like a proposal and then also submit their final report. The final report, I believe, is 2 pages, single space, structured as a research article. So it has intro, methods, results, description.
And we're front loading by reading, a very basic scientific paper that unpacks what those things and trying to make this very
new freshmen in the class, right? So there's really no reason.
Not only are there freshmen, there's students from across the discipline who maybe have actually done a scientific paper, they might use it. There are no.
Yeah.
I guess I have 2 questions. The first one is maybe positive. You're talking about your TAs, right? Your TAs. I was wondering if you could clarify a little bit about your role specifically, like how does that compare with the structure vector, things like that. And then my second one is, what do you hope that every student takes away? What's the fundamental, if they can walk away with like one thing? Yeah. What do you? And I really just 2 separate questions.
Well, good for the role of the TA.
I was just going to say in this class, the role of the TA is probably more involved than many other classes. But the instructors of record really treat us as colleagues and really want our opinions, and
without often realizing the power dynamics of their faculty.
Yeah, definitely. So part of it was, I was very excited to get the opportunity to do a lot of the curriculum development, and when Kase joined, a lot of this sort of was done. We did some more development, especially of the discussion activities. They really are we'll take care of. They produce all the pre-lecture content videos, set the broad strokes. What are we going to cover? They write the assessment questions. They lead those Thursday lecture sessions. And discussion sections, they're do whatever you want. They totally turn it over to us.
And this will be mentioned when I have a challenge this slide as well that we'll get to, but they did a lot of the front loading of the work with the online materials and leaning back on that a little bit. And so I felt like oftentimes we were kind of brainstorming them because we were with the students and getting direct feedback. So this is working, this isn't, and we need you all to do it this way. That's how you're doing it. And that's kind of a interesting line to watch because these are my PIs for all of those for my research and for my PA position. So that was a little bit complicated and something I think we worked through at least halfway through the semester, but there were a number of those initial sessions, initial weeks in which the professors had really relied overly too much on the video content and not really prepared too much for the actual
questions.
Yes,
in a little bit. Yes. Quickly to run through successes. I think we've done a decent job doing skill building, teaching them how to read a paper, write a paper, and trying to connect their classroom learning to everyday food system decisions.
Yeah, throughout the course, just like the organic module, we're unpacking what are labels mean, what are these things.
Yeah, sorry.
We can also share all the slides with everyone here. So if you give us your email address,
And then these key challenges, which I think hopefully will sort of spark place for discussion, because this is what we're really interested in hearing other people's experience.
So yeah, balancing accessibility and engagement, putting the materials online, making it within Monday to Wednesday at noon, on your time, on your user, please make it happen. But like over the course of the semester, we saw maybe 60 to 70% participation, viewing of the videos down to like 30 to 40%. And so I think students are really figuring out actually what is the minimum I need to do? They always, there's maybe 20, 25% of students who are like, I'm going to do everything. But because it's such a wide breadth of majors coming in, a lot of the students are explicitly, they know from course reviews that this is, we're generous in grading, and they know that, they're not super interested.
If they're taking organic chemistry at the same time and they have an exam coming up, they're like, I can shirk on the agroecology assignments and still be fine.
Yeah, and because, in the last few years, we've known students having a lot of complications. Everyone's having a lot of complications. So we've been given a lot of leeway of any sort of excuse to come up with. I'm not going to tell you. I'll probably regrade it. I'll be generous.
Yeah. This is a big one that I alluded to earlier.
Yeah, and speaking to this idea of contextuality, and the four questions, what is agroecological, the others, should I join it? Organic, how do we see the world? All of these, like, we're trying to make it complicated intentionally because these things are kind of framed as really simple, but it's not. But students want a clear answer. They want to come to lecture and be told this is how it is. They don't want to like unpack the complexity of our world often. So it's just, we are directly contradicting a lot of the other kind of forms of education that they're learning. And that's not easy for them. Yeah, so, we have a sociologist, an agronomist, and an ethnologist. They're trying to mesh and to flow together and make some sort of interdisciplinary education, but I think oftentimes we strike more of a multidisciplinary chord and won't really get that integration and synthesis. We attempted through course transdisciplinarity. We do try to bring in farmers and other speakers to come in who are outside of academia, but there's always more. Yeah, I mean, we spoke to this. They're just coming from such different backgrounds. Yeah. And then, yeah, like as we've heard for the last 10, 15 years about this work, all these kind of individual solutions to make consistent change, we struggle with going beyond that, especially when students are like, what can I do? A lot of people have heard agroecology is a science and practice. We get the science piece in, we get the practice piece in, the social movements. We struggle with that. How do we actually connect with that? And, in the United States broadly, social movements around agroecology and food systems are nascent or small and still coming about. We can point to the global south, we can point to looking at Argentina, and all these places, but it's harder than
Great. So I know, so we were originally scheduled to end at noon. I'm hoping since we started a little before to hang out a little bit longer.
And if you're not on school.
Yeah, no worries. But this is like a lot.
Sorry, one question.
Yeah, please.
Do we know since we started later, is the whole schedule pushed back, or are they?
Good question.
Do we know?
Well, it's sort of also.
Yeah. We don't know.
Yeah, it was not cool.
I don't think there's starting at 1:30.
If anyone wants to find an organizer, that we for that. But
we will invoke the open space technology rule of 2C or movement to be accessible. So,
We're never-
so what we were hoping was to have some kind of smaller group discussion around some of these topics, and then kind of share back our hope out of this. Not only, and we're happy to answer more questions as well about these things, but also, you all are coming from such different backgrounds, from undergrads who are in education, to farm instructors, to instructors, college courses. We want to know what you think, and these are some of the questions that we're interested in. So some of these things, what are the course concepts that should be presented in an introductory agroecology course? We have our ideas, we want to know yours. Should food justice and indigenous food sovereignty be necessary components of agroecology curriculum? Why, when, and how should these concepts be incorporated? What are successful strategies for cohesively integrating the biophysical and the socio-political components of food systems? Really reaching for interdisciplinarity, that's a challenge. What assessment tools and approaches are most effective for evaluating student learning? I feel like evaluation is just one of these things that I'm starting to hear about and learn about. How and to what extent should place-based learning and site-specific histories be incorporated into curriculum versus a survey of more global examples? We hear a lot of our students being like, I want to hear about what's going on all around the world, but like, we're in Wisconsin. Should we focus on Wisconsin? Should we focus on the Midwest? And then what are other challenges or insights from your experience teaching agroecology haven't we addressed? Is everyone up to maybe discuss this 10-15 minutes?
Don't feel like you have to go through these systematically. Let the discussion flow where you want to,
Yeah,
just jumping off.
Yes, so you jump in.
Oh, well, what if we do smaller groups? And we kind of check in at the end, that way we can have a little bit more. 2 groups, 3 groups, 2 groups. Cool. Yeah, we'll flip it around now.
I can mark this.
Thanks. Okay. And then could people just designate a note taker that I can hop in as well?
You want to go check on one of the other rooms real quick?